Hello, I was planning to record a video to show how we can upload and publish a package as a node dependency and how we can use that in other projects after downloading. But then I decided to refer to the notes that I had taken before in my website. So I will go through that just to quickly remind how it works. So in this page, I'm explaining first of all, after creating the project, how we can init the NPM packages and how we can configure it. And then, of course, we do the implementation. We create our classes and the functions inside. And then, of course, we should export and import those functions into different classes. And eventually, whenever we are done with the TypeScript implementation, we have to compile it. Because as we know, TypeScript is a typed version or a wrapper of JavaScript. But first of all, we have to compile to be able to run it in a JavaScript environment or just a Node environment. So for that, we have to first initialize the TypeScript environment as well with tsc init, and then we have to compile it by running the tsc command. So we can see how we can configure our TypeScript config file, and then after the compiling, we can see all the generated files into the output folder that we specify in our config file. And then we are ready to publish. But for that, we will run the npm publish. But for that, we can include or exclude some files or some extensions. So I have some notes, I guess, here to show how it works. So it will be again in the package.json file or just the some other config files to exclude some npm files. And then finally, we will just install in other projects to use the functions implemented in this package. And one more thing I have in this page is, especially for Cypress, we can use some custom commands. Like normally how we can use those functions implemented in the functions, in the packages, we can just call them, right? So in Cypress, we can do that. We can call those functions as a command, as a Cypress command. So in this way, we can even use them as a chainable, like after executing one of them, we can execute just another one as a chain operation. So since we already start talking about chainables, I have another note here or just a drawing to show how it works. So normally we call all the functions one by one, but if we implement those functions or custom commands as chainables, we can combine all of them all together, or we can bind them all together to execute all of them in a sequence. So how we can do that is very easy. Just after defining our commands as a custom Cypress command, we will just return, we will just add the return values here. So in this way, it will just, you may relate this like a page object model in Selenium, right? Normally how we are doing that, each time it is returning this value. So we can again continue to call the functions or the methods implemented inside the same class. So it is very similar. It is returning the return value of the functions. So after returning this, we can just continue to do some other operations based on that returning value. It may be an element, it may be another, I don't know, object or something that we implement inside the function. So other than that, yeah, this was it. And what else I have here? So yeah, this is an important topic, like especially in Cypress. Sometimes it may be very annoying, like right, for example, whenever we have some sync and async code together, sometimes we can't figure out which is running in what order. So sometimes we have to regulate the order of execution. So for that purpose, we may have to create some promises, like promises waiting for the concluding some functions or the executions properly and then continue with the rest. So for that, I have several notes here. So again, I was planning to record a video to implement those functions, but I already have all the screenshots and all the explanations in this page. So again, I'm just referring to this page in my website. So how can we do that is like we can use then keyword, and of course we can create some promises, and then those promises have to be resolved in the proper way. And of course we can wrap in a Cypress way. In Playwright, it is way easier and way straightforward. We don't have to create some promises because the promises are already there. So we can just use the await keyword, right? But actually, let me show you one example here. Yeah, this is the relevant class. So here in this class, I'm just reporting some test results to the test rail. Test rail is a just test management tool, and it has a public API. So we can just call this API to report our test results. So I prepare my data, and then the data that I prepare, including the test results, individual test results, including pass, fail, or maybe blocked, retest, or whatever it is, it will be inside the payload, inside the body of the request as a payload. And then, of course, I need some API keys because I should be authorized, and it will be a post request. So what is important here is fetch. I'm using fetch here, but there are some other options. Like even I can use the Playwright request itself. It's a core function, or I can use even some other options like Axios. But this time I'm using just fetch from Node package, and it is already a promise, so it is returning a promise. And what I have to do is just I use await keyword here, and then after I get the response, I can continue by doing some other operations. So then, after I get the response, I'm doing some checks. And again, even after this, I can return the rest of the operation to my next then block. So if I'm done here, I can just conclude my block here. But if I want to do further checks, like first I get the response, right? And then when I have the response, now I'm reading the response text field or the property. So after I have this response text, so to handle this, first of all, I have to return this to the next block. My next block is here. So whenever I have this response text property, I will name this as error text because it is coming from the condition where the response status is not 200. It means it is not somehow successful. It may be maybe 400 if my payload is somehow wrong formatted, or maybe it might be 500 something if the test rail server is temporarily unavailable or unreachable, or any other authentication issue or any other issue. So in any of those cases, I will return this value to my next block, and then I will continue my further checks. So again, still, if I want to do some further checks, I will continue here. But I have to return what I will pass to my next block, right? For example, if I wanna return, or if I wanna pass the, like, I don't know, it might not make sense, but let's say I will just pass the first a few characters to the next block. So something like this. Yeah. So if I return this to next block, what I'll have here, I will have the first how many characters? Three characters, right? First three cars. Oops. First three cars of error string. Cool. And I have to do something here. This is the place that where I will continue my operations. So in this way, I can do some further checks and then pass to the next block with return, and with then I catch this return and continue my operations, and then pass to the next with return, and with then I catch this return. So and so forth. I can do several chainable operations. So in Playwright, it's pretty straightforward and easy. All I have to do is just putting an await keyword in front of a promise, and then it will be already weighted properly. But in Cypress, it is a little bit more challenging. Like I have to create a promise manually, then I have to resolve it properly, and sometimes, of course, I have to use then keyword again, and sometimes I have to wrap as a Cypress way. Anything else I want to share with you? I guess that's all in this video. So we basically see how we can publish a package. We can how we can construct some custom Cypress commands. How we can do chainable custom executions in Cypress, and manage the async code, and how we can do that in Playwright as well. This was the very brief summary of these topics in this video.